Hope you all like gambling, because everything there is to do with Rivens is all orangey. We have a few sources of Riven mods. We can get them from the daily sorties. We can get them from the weekly Archon hunt. We can get one from Iron Wake for the small cost of some Riven slivers. We can get them from the Steel Path version of the circuit in the Deviri. We can get more from Acrithis in the Dormer Zone, as seen right here. And finally, we can head on over to a relay where Teshin in the Steel Path will give us one last source of the usual Riven mods right here. This can change each week, so don't worry. I know it's a kit gun. I wouldn't buy a kit gun one either. And then for the arc gun mods, we need to visit the arbitration vendor. We'll find them down here. I don't think there's a limit on these, so if you are looking for arc gun Riven mods, specifically, this one isn't too bad to farm up. And somewhat predictably, the companion Riven mods are found with Cephalon Samaris. Now that we know where to get the Riven mods from, let's talk about storage. This is a bit of a hot topic. I'm not really a fan of how this is monetized, but this is what we're dealing with. You can see here that we have a certain Riven capacity. We start out with 15. We get an additional 30 for free once we reach Mastery Rank 30, which to me anyway is a suggestion as to what stage of the game you should be in when you start dealing with Rivens. And we can also purchase extra by coming into the marketplace, typing in Riven, and you'll see that we're able to buy 3 more slots for 60 platinum. Yes, so for each Riven slot, you can effectively get a Warframe slot, which you guys tell me how you feel about that. I think it's a little bit harsh, but we do get 45 slots for free by getting up to Master Rank 13. So that's probably what I would suggest doing if you are intending on getting into the Riven scene. As you can see on my screen now, the Rivens don't actually start taking up slots until we start unveiling them. This means if you just want to use Rivens to get platinum, because you can sell them veiled, these 5 here, they'll probably go for like 20 platinum each. I can go ahead, make 100 platinum nice and easy, and I never have to look at Rivens again. This is what's called a base Riven. We can then turn this into a veiled Riven. So this is where we've activated the challenge on the Riven, and at this point it is now going to take up one of the Riven slots. And you can see that we have a challenge right here. So I need to kill 2 enemies with headshots during an aim glide. Shouldn't be too difficult. I'm probably going to go ahead and get this one done for the video. But to show you how we activate the challenge on one of these, then what you need to do is come into your arsenal, pick a weapon that your target Riven might fit on. So you see here on the right hand side, have this little Riven symbol, and then we can put one of these on. We need to put it into an empty slot. So you'll have to take something off of your weapon, and then we can put something like the shotgun Riven on here. It's going to ask us if we want to unveil it. And now we have a new challenge that we need to accomplish with this on a weapon. So we need to get 3 headshot kills in a single aim glide on this one. So we've got 2 basically identical ones, which isn't too terrible, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead, get one of these done. I'm not going to go through every challenge. What I will do though, in case you guys want help with this, I will put a link to the wiki in the description so that you guys can find help with any of the challenges if you need it. But generally speaking, you just need to come up with something sensible. So for example, with a Riven that needs headshots, I'm going to try and put that on a weapon that's actually good at getting headshots. I'm not really that great at getting it with the Arc Plasmor. Probably going to put it on something like a Rubico, and then I'm going to go ahead and get that done. So in my case, I decided to use Zephyr on the Plains of Eidolon, so we're going to get some nice easy headshots whilst aim gliding. And then you'll find at the end of the mission, you will now have an unveiled Riven that we can play with. Looking back at the Riven screen, then you can see that our Riven has a bunch of stats on there. There is a calculator that will allow you to see whether or not this is a good or a bad Riven. Basically, you can have 2 to 3 positive effects and 1 negative effect. This is known as a curse. 2 effects on their own will be stronger than 3 separate effects, and a curse will improve the amount of improvement you can get from the 3 positive effects. So there are many different ways of looking at this. The God roll style damage types are generally going to be multi-shot, crit chance, crit damage, and raw damage. I know most people like to use raw damage from arcanes these days, but those 3 you're generally not going to be able to go wrong with. And the preferable corruptions are going to be negative zoom or something that doesn't really affect the weapon. This one here, 0.95% damage to Grenier. As long as you're not fighting Grenier, that's probably going to be perfectly reasonable on the Penta. But these stats here are probably not our favorite. Do we really want fire rate on the Penta? Don't think so. We haven't got extra damage on there, which is kind of interesting. And we have projectile speed. So overall, actually actually probably not the worst roll we could have had on one of these Rivens. Link the calculator because everything about these is random. Okay, so you can see that the maximum damage here that we can get at the max rank of this Riven is going to be 222.5% damage, which while looking on the calculator, it's actually on the high side. The maximum damage roll is 229%. That's actually not terrible, but I'm going to go ahead and we're going to roll this anyway, just to show you guys kind of how this works. Let's say that we've decided that basically having what is effectively an improved version of Serration on our Penta isn't worth it to us. We can decide that we want to re-roll the stats on this. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to select this, and you're going to see that this changes, and we're now able to cycle the stats. This starts at 900, and it's going to go up each time we re-roll it. I believe after 9 times, it caps out at 3,500 kuva for each roll. So you can roll this as much as you want. Rolling it early is cheaper. The major suggestion from me is either sell them unrolled or roll them until you've got what you want out of the Riven. Okay, doing it midway, I don't think it's really going to affect anybody for any particular reason. That's why I wanted to do this after we'd already done the Kuva farm on the channel. If you haven't been following the playlist, the previous video to this one in the playlist is how to farm Kuva. You should have plenty of that if you've reached this point. Go ahead and we're going to cycle this. Now, the good thing is, once it gives us a new set of stats, we can decide whether or not, I mean, that is horrifically bad. We can decide to take the new stats or we can keep the original stats. So at least if you do get a good roll and you want to continue rolling, you are at least going to be protected against losing a favorable set of stats for unfavorable ones, which is really the only protection that you get. I mean, that's actually all right. But anyway, I hope that kind of just gives you the idea as to what we could be doing with Rivens. I'm afraid I am not able to tell you how much you can or can't sell these Rivens for because it changes. That's because of another stat that we now need to talk about, which is Disposition. Now, if we go back to the calculator, we'll see that next to the Penta here is a stat. That's not just a random number. That is actually the multiplier that gets applied to the weapon's Rivens when they are put onto it. And this is a combination of how popular the weapon is. So if it's an overused weapon, so let's look at something like the Archiplasmor, and you'll see that that's way, way lower. And in fact, on the 10 Archiplasmor, it's going to be 0.5 because this is already a strong weapon. And because A, lots of people use it, and Development Extremes also has like an internal ranking system, that is simply not going to get as many bonuses out of a Riven as something that is less used, such as the Penta that we're kind of showing here. And this can change. So if a YouTuber turns around and makes a particular weapon more popular because they've done something amazing with some Riven, that is actually going to affect everyone else's Rivens and the price of those Rivens. Like the Rivens might go up in price for a while, and then the disposition will change, and then the price of the Riven's going to go down. This is why I said it's basically gambling. In game, if you want to get a quick read on whether or not a weapon has a good disposition, you can see it right here on your weapon. 1 pip, that means that the Rubico is going to have a low disposition. So if we go ahead and take a look at the calculator again, and I put something like the Rubico in, Rubico Prime 0.6, almost as bad as the Archiplasmor, right? If it's a popular weapon, it's unlikely that the Riven is going to be as effective. That doesn't mean it's impossible to get a decent one, because as you saw from the previous Riven, they are able to fill the role of multiple other mods. So in the case of the Rubico, you could get yourself extra multi-shot crit and crit damage on there, which would be ungodly, and still get some pretty good results out of that Riven for the Rubico. Most of the time, the Rivens are going to work on variants of the weapon. There are a few exceptions, usually where the weapon changes the way that it works. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but basically, as you can see, the Secura Penta will allow me to fit in that Penta Riven if I want to use it on there. To conclude, let's talk about the industrialization of Rivens and how you can interact with them to basically get whatever you want. You obviously have a few choices. You could get your weekly Rivens and then head on over to the marketplace and sell them veiled so that you can just kind of generate steady platinum, and then once you have enough platinum to purchase the one you want, you can then go into the Riven part of the marketplace, as you can see, and let's say you wanted a Rubico mod, you could put that in there, and if one is within your price range, maybe you can go ahead and just purchase it. Crit chance, multi-shot, some minus zoom for 900. Here we go. That's going to be a significant upgrade to something like the Rubico. Real nice. You could obviously do this the middle of the road way, which would be to unveil the mod, complete the challenge on the mod, and then try and sell it as a weapon-based one. So for example, you could get an unrolled Rubico mod, put that in there, and someone will likely pay more than 20 platinum for that. So you'd get more. That means you'll have more Riven mods that you'll have to get rid of. Or you could go ahead, do the entire thing manually, and just keep on re-rolling your Rivens until you get the stats that you want on the weapons that you want.